Have you ever wondered why aged meat tastes better? This savory secret is well known in culinary circles. Meat aging, you see, is a fascinating process that enhances the flavor and tenderness of meat. It's like a fine wine, improving with time, and it's this process that makes your steak melt in your mouth good. From high-end steakhouses to your local butcher, aged meat is a delicacy that's appreciated by chefs and food lovers alike. Intrigued? Let's unravel the science behind this fascinating process. The magic of aging meat lies in the science of it. You see, when meat is aged, an intricate process unfolds. Enzymes come into play, working as nature's microscopic chefs. These enzymes are present in the meat from the moment of the animal's life, and they don't stop working even after the meat has been harvested. These enzymes are like tiny scissors. They snip away at proteins, fats, and glycogen in the meat. Proteins break down into smaller units called amino acids, fats into fatty acids, and glycogen into sugars. This breakdown process is what results in complex flavors and tender meat. Imagine a symphony of flavors in your mouth. That's the magic these enzymes are capable of. They transform the basic, raw taste of fresh meat into something more nuanced and desirable. It's like the difference between a simple chord and a full symphony. So, it's not just time that makes the meat taste better, it's a whole scientific process. Now, there are two primary methods of aging meat: dry aging and wet aging. Let's start with dry aging. Picture this: a fine cut of meat hanging in a controlled environment exposed to air. Here, the meat isn't just sitting idly by, it's undergoing a transformation. The moisture in the meat evaporates, concentrating the flavor, while enzymes naturally present in the meat work their magic, breaking down muscle tissue to tenderize it. This process can take anywhere from a few days to several weeks, and the result? A deeply flavorful and tender piece of meat that's a favorite among gourmands. On the flip side, there's wet aging. In this process, the meat is vacuum sealed and left to age in its own juices. Unlike dry aging, there's no moisture loss here, and the process is quicker, usually taking about a week. The result is a tender piece of meat with a more pronounced beefy flavor. Each method has its own unique impact on the flavor and texture of the meat. So, how do these methods change the flavor and texture of the meat? Well, let's start by talking about dry aging. The process of dry aging gives the meat a deep, nutty, and concentrated flavor. This is because the moisture in the meat evaporates over time, intensifying the flavor. It's like a fine wine, getting better with age. Now let's talk about wet aging. Wet-aged meat has a less intense flavor than dry-aged, but don't let that fool you. The flavor is still enhanced, and some people prefer the subtler taste that wet aging provides. Regardless of the method, both dry and wet aging result in a tender texture. The enzymes in the meat break down the muscle fibers, making the meat more tender and melt in your mouth delicious. So whether you prefer a bold or subtle flavor, there's an aging method for you. Aging meat is not without its risks, so it's important to follow best practices and food safety guidelines. A vital factor in meat aging is maintaining proper temperature and humidity levels. The ideal temperature for aging meat is typically between 1 and 4 degrees Celsius. Any warmer, and you risk bacterial growth. Any cooler, and the meat may freeze, halting the aging process. Humidity also plays a crucial role, with a sweet spot between 75 and 85%. Too dry and your meat will dehydrate, too damp and you're inviting mold and spoilage. Moreover, cleanliness is key. Always ensure your hands, tools, and workspace are thoroughly clean to prevent cross-contamination. Regularly monitor the meat for signs of spoilage such as off odors, discoloration, or sliminess. By following these guidelines, you can ensure a safe and delicious aging process. You might be wondering, can I age meat at home? Well, the answer is a resounding yes. It's entirely possible and not as daunting as you might think. Start small, perhaps with a steak, and use your refrigerator. It's an ideal place to begin your meat aging journey. Just remember, maintaining the right temperature and humidity levels is key. Keep cleanliness and safety in mind too. With careful attention to detail, you can bring the flavors of aged meat right into your home kitchen.